I am. All right. Hello. Welcome to today's episode of Juicing the Numbers, your statistics and sports podcast. I am one of your hosts, Joshua Tracy.
And I'm Corwin Heller.
Shout out to today's hat,
Also a
Ramapo
host.
Roadrunners. Boom. Boom. Ramapo Roadrunners. Ain't nobody. So, also, fun fact for anybody not from the area or also didn't go to Ramapo College, which is most people. Ramapo College is very small. They were originally called the Roadrunners because the school got put together and they put together athletics programs before they actually built any place for the athletic teams to play. So like Rampo had like a basketball team before they had a basketball court. So they were always the away team because they had to be. So that earned them the nickname of the Roadrunners. And then when they got that nickname, they were like, hey, let's use like the Roadrunner from Looney Tunes, or not Looney Tunes, fucking whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Looney Tunes.
It is Looney Tunes. Yeah, I was going to say, wait, it is. And then Warner Brothers predictably sued them and was like, you can't just do that. And they were like, oh, shucks, you're right. And so now their mascot is an anatomically correct Roadrunner, which is hilarious. So that's the
I need to look that up.
Yeah, it's very funny because it's so stupid. But yeah, I don't know why they thought they could get away with that, especially in like the late 60s when the college was founded, when Looney Tunes was still an insanely popular show, like at the time. But fucking way to go, Ramapo. That's our team. Yeah, look at that guy. Look at that guy. That's our team, baby. I've also upgraded. So I got so annoyed for anybody who has been hearing us talking the past couple of weeks or actually watched the YouTube channel version of these shows. I bought this like really cheap small ring light that has been dying after like 30 minutes. Plugged in. It plugged in and dying. And I don't understand how that works. It's like the battery isn't. It's like the light is expending more energy than it takes in. And it's like, why would you design a thing like that? So I bought a new one and that it's now illuminating this fucking mug up here. And Corn and I've been talking for a while and it has yet to die. So I think I've found my match, but I went through 2 different ring lights in like 2 weeks, and it's more money than I wanted to spend on ring lights, but I also couldn't stand that fucking thing anymore. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably about as well lit as I've ever been, but that's just because I opened up my curtains and we're now shooting this during the day.
So. Letting in some daylight. Yeah, there you go. The good old sun.
It's tough, that sun, that app. I was almost going to call the sun an asshole, but I feel like that might not be the best thing to do. So, sun, you're the best. Praise the sun. Love you. Don't explode within my lifetime. Just throwing that out there.
Oh, no noticed here. We're good enough at killing ourselves. Yeah. The human race will be its own destruction.
Imagine if scientists just got it like super, super wrong. And it's like, no, it's not going to happen in 80 billion years. It's going to happen like next Wednesday.
Oh, yeah. Dude, like it's Mr. Biden, President Biden. Yeah, we were wrong about the sun. It's going to explode like tomorrow. Can we do anything?
Is there anything we can do? Okay.
Nothing.
Let's get weird. Just like Biden just takes off the suit, just goes t-shirt, and it's like, all right, I'll fucking see you guys never.
Well, then Musk takes off in his rocket to Mars. He dies anyway, not realizing Mars isn't far enough away.
Oh God. Would anything survive? Like if the sun went supernova?
I don't think any of the planets would survive.
Right, but like what if like the Hubble Space Telescope, any of like our deep space satellites, anything like that, would any of that survive?
No, only
I realize you're not an astrophysicist, so
oh no, but please keep asking.
Yeah, no.
I'm not an astrophysicist, but I'm certainly willing to make guesses.
We both have Twitter accounts. We know how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not an expert in fucking anything, but I'll sit here and like talk about it. Yeah. Sure.
I've never even watched football before, but here I am talking about it like I know what I'm saying.
Yeah, Corwin and I talked about so March Madness is going on right now because it is March and there is madness. And we were like, should we talk about March Madness? And both of us who have not watched college basketball at all this year, and me who has not watched college basketball at all in my entire life, we're both like, nah, we probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
Everyone's having a grand old time with the fact that Oral Roberts University, I don't know, beat, I don't know who the fuck they beat, but everyone's been making, blowjob jokes, and
Ohio
that's been
State.
fun. Oh, they beat Ohio State. The Ohio State.
The Ohio State University. Yep.
Wow. Oh, fuck Ohio State.
Amen to that.
Yeah. We don't bang with the Buckeyes here unless their players get drafted by the Jets, in which case let's go.
Yeah, Ryan Shazier, Cam Hayward, some Steelers players I've gotten over their alma mater.
Yeah, every now and then you can put a blind eye towards it, but
Speaking of alma mater, my guys, Penn State wrestling national championships last night. 4 for 4 in the national title bouts. 4 national champions for Penn State. Still not enough to win the national title as a team, though. So unfortunate, but hey, we still got 8 in the last 10 years. No big deal.
that's just the way it is.
So here, this is something we can talk about. So are you familiar enough with like the wrestling bracket, how that all works for the national title from when we talked about it 2 years ago now?
I think so, yeah.
Basically 10 weight classes. I don't know the exact number. I think it's like 32 wrestlers in a bracket. You get points for each win, you get bonus points for bonus wins, things like that. Iowa clinched the national title before the championship bouts last night. Mathematically, was not possible for Penn State to come back and beat them. Penn State finished with 4 national champions. Iowa finished with 1, but it was mathematically impossible for Penn State to come and win a team national title.
Is that based on points?
It's based on points.
Yeah, the differential.
And it was a big discussion of like, do we need to review the point system for wrestling? Because that just doesn't seem right. Like that doesn't seem like the proper way to do things where a team can win 4 national titles individually. 4 times as many as Iowa, but Iowa would still win the team title.
They can go husk corn. Fuck that shit.
Those fuckers.
Fucking Iowa.
Fucking Iowa, dude.
Fucking Iowa.
It's their 24th national championship.
Well, way to go. Cool. Happy Clappy Valley.
It's true. There's a lot of the clap in Happy Valley. Yep.
I'm not surprised. Moving on from that very quickly dicey subject, let's talk about another college thing. So so it's funny because we're sitting here talking about how we don't talk about college sports very often because we don't watch a lot of college sports outside of Corwin's college football and college wrestling. Because Rampo College, D3 school, we didn't have a lot of teams, and honestly, I didn't give a shit. That shit was televised. I didn't care. I had some friends in like the softball teams. So I'd go watch some softball games, and I couldn't even really tell you what happened. So like nothing. So
there was softball played. That is the extent of which you can recall.
Yeah, some of my buddies and I would just like go to the softball games because we had friends on the team and it's free and outside, and we would just like smoke cigars in the outfield and like hang out on a Sunday. It was a great time. Go ahead.
Non sequitur. Went to Cigars International out here in PA. It was very nice. You
went to the Cigars Local.
Yeah, I made that joke of, do they have a Cigars Domestic? And just got a, from the rest of the people in the car.
Yeah, I bet they hate that. Yeah. You should have said that to the employees. I bet they get that all the time.
No, the employees that day were not in a great mood, but that is an after the podcast story if we remember.
Fair.
I realize we have chat. I could just write it down.
All right. Anyway. There's been a really like revolutionary level of interest in college baseball on the back of 2 dudes from the same school. And I think while we often consider baseball, I think especially with highlights that you see on TV or is thrown around Twitter, the most common thought highlight with baseball oftentimes is hitting, home runs, weird, interesting swings, shit like that. And no, this college baseball peaking of interest is coming as a result of pitching. It's coming as a result of two dudes from Vanderbilt University. It's Jack Leiter, son of
Jack
I was going to
Heavier.
say Hall of Fame player, but I don't think Al Leiter's in the Hall of Fame, nor do I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. But I'm going to look up Al Leiter just to make sure. Al Leiter, who I have met and accidentally flipped off once. I'm sorry, Al. And and Kumar Rocker. Have I never told you that?
Oh, what?
All right. So for reference, Jack Leiter is from Corwin in my hometown area. So when Corwin and I both lived near this baseball academy called Jack Cuss Baseball Academy. We've talked about it on the podcast before. It's owned by Jack Cuss Senior and Junior. Junior being the baseball players, Senior being this huge dick of an accountant that owns like half the town.
Correct.
It's really crazy. It's like in local politics, Jack Cuss is a very divisive figure in Flemington, New Jersey. But anyway, Jack Leiter would go to Jack Cuss Baseball Academy because it's also one of the best baseball academies in the country for baseball and softball. Jenny Finch was the other co-owner of it. Yeah, gold medal softball player from obviously like the U.S. and New Jersey. So Al obviously would go to watch his kids' games. And there was a year that I worked at the concession stand in Jack Cuss ballpark, and I was there at the same time that Al Leiter was there for one of his kids' games. So I got a baseball, I got a marker, and I went over to Al Leiter and I was like, "Hey, Al, I'm like a big fan. I remember growing up watching you. Love hearing you on the Yankees broadcast. Can I get a baseball? Can I get a signature?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." And gave me a signature. He was really, really nice about the whole thing too, especially since I was like, I really shouldn't be bothering this man during his son's baseball game. But I did. So a day or so later, I'm driving on this like little access road between the gym that Jack Cust also owned and the baseball stadium that Jack Cust owned. And so there's
Where
this.
Josh and I met.
That's true. And there is a 1-lane bridge. And I start going down the bridge, and this other car just like wasn't paying attention and it had a yield sign, and I didn't, and like started going and had to like reverse back. And I start driving by, and I'm like 19 and angry, and I flip the guy off, and I look in the window, and it's Al Leiter, and I'm like, oh no, no, I'm so, and he's looking at me like fuck, why? Like it's a small mistake, which it was. I was wrong for being that mad about it. And yeah, and I've never forgotten that. So sorry, Al.
Can we get him on the pod and tell him this story?
I mean, if we get him on the pod, I'll tell him anything. But yeah. So that's my story of accidentally once flipping off Al Leiter, and that's my other story of seeing Jack Leiter play baseball when he was like 12, maybe. I don't know. Young.
If you were 19, yeah, no, he probably was like around that age.
Yeah, it might have even been because I don't know what year he is in school. Actually, I have his baseball reference page open right now. He's
Sophomore?
21 this season. So
Not a sophomore.
no. So if I was 19, that was 7 years ago. So he would have been 14.
No big
Sure.
deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker have been just dominating not just Pitching Ninja, who's a very well-known baseball Twitter account who obviously puts up a lot of videos about pitching, and I think has done a real service to the baseball fan community in showing via overlays and design and sequencing kind of how pitching works from a setup, mechanical, and mental process. So it's not just been dominating that sector, which is a very lighthearted and fun Twitter account. It's also like you're seeing a lot of, obviously no one likes Barstool, but the Barstool guys getting into it is a signifier that it is hitting mainstream. And so you're seeing a lot of Barstool guys now also starting to make comments about that, in addition to just more like pop baseball accounts and small time baseball accounts kind of getting in on the fun. So we thought it'd be interesting to just kind of talk about where they're at. Cause it's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. How good these two dudes have been. especially on a team that is. Where do you think Vanderbilt's ranked?
Number one.
Last I checked, they were ranked 7th.
That's insanity.
Hold on, yeah, college baseball rankings. Let's see. Okay, no, now they're number 2, behind Arkansas.
Not a huge surprise that Arkansas is up there. I will say that's crazy to me that they wouldn't be higher, that they wouldn't be number one with how dominant their two pitchers are.
Yeah,
So,
Arkansas.
college
Sorry.
baseball, if you don't know, it's very, very, very common that you have just two starting pitchers. Your rotation is two guys, because they play 2 games a week. It's not the same, 162 game schedule. They don't play every single day. They have, a Friday game, they have a Saturday game. You have two starting pitchers. And this is very similar of a scenario to UCLA back in I'll just say 2010, when they had Garrett Cole as their Friday guy and
Trevor Bauer.
Trevor Bauer as their actually it might have been switched. I think Trevor Bauer might have been the Friday. It doesn't matter. But they had those two guys and they were fucking dominant.
Yeah, so actually real quick, so the NCAA website updated on March 14th has them at number 2. The Baseball America website, which was updated on March 15th, has them at 3, behind Arkansas still at 1, and then Mississippi State at 2. Regardless, kind of confusing as to how that works. But whatever. Yeah, it's just interesting because like I don't know anybody on any college baseball team except for like these two guys. And
Right.
that really. So obviously, for one, that's what you want out of your college baseball team. You want national recognition of how fucking good your goddamn players are.
Naturally.
But this also fits a little bit into kind of what we've been wanting, what we've been talking about as a way for baseball to get bigger for the last since the podcast started, which is, you got to develop an interest with the younger crowd. And obviously college baseball is a thing that's been happening forever, but the fact that there's so much attention on college ball right now, I think is nothing but great for the game. Because this level of recognition for younger dudes, especially with baseball, which is traditionally such an older person sport, you see a lot of guys, hitting their peak or getting their first big contract or getting a lot of attention, when they're in their late 20s, early 30s. Look at Aaron Judge. Whereas, these are guys getting their recognition at like 21. It's nice. It's so nice to see. Just such a good point for the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, both 21. All right, so let's just look at their stats pages just to gawk a little bit because it's fucking ridiculous. So let's start with Jack Leiter. So far this season, he has pitched in 4 games. He has won all 4 of them. He has an ERA of 0.45. He has pitched 20 innings thus far. Hold on, actually, is this up to date? Actually, no. Sorry, this is missing 1 start. So I'm going to start from the beginning because his ERA is lower. So he's pitching 5 games. He has won all 5. He has an ERA of 0.31. He has gone 5 appearances, 5 games started, 1 complete game shutout. He just had a no-hitter the other day. And the only reason it was a no-hitter and not a perfect game is because he walked the first batter. Perfect game after that.
Which is absolutely insane.
Yeah, fucking ridiculous. So 29 innings pitched. He has allowed 7 hits, 2 runs, 1 earned, 11 walks, and 49 strikeouts. He has allowed no doubles, no triples, no home runs, a batting average against of 0.76.
But he's hit 3 batsmen.
Yes, he has 0 wild pitches, 3 hit batters, 1 balk. SFA and SHA sacrifice fly allowed and sacrifice hit allowed, if I recall correctly. Neither of which are very interesting stats. But yeah, my God, this is just ridiculous.
That's about as dominant as you can get. Really, really dominant. Hey, I mean, if you came up to me and said, "Hey, this guy, he's a pitcher. I can't tell you much about him. All I can say is that his, opponent batting average is over double his ERA." I would say, that sounds mathematically impossible. Actually, no, it's not because I can't do fucking math. Fuck me. Never mind. I am stupid. Carry the
Oh,
zero,
don't be so hard on yourself.
buddy. No, it's okay. Numbers are hard.
Yeah. So if we look, let's look at the part of the command aspect of it. Um, the walks. So he has 11 walks so far this season.
Yep.
In 29 innings, that is good for a walks per nine of 3.41. That's really fucking good. I mean, that's better than his dad's entire career. Al
Two-time
Leiter,
All-Star.
who's a very, very good pitcher. Al Leiter, two-time All-Star, two-time World Series winner. His lifetime walks per nine is 4.4. That's an entire walk per nine less than his father. That's really, really good. Let's look up a modern day pitcher. Let's see where I don't know Garrett Cole's at. Just out of
Oh yeah,
curiosity.
just casually like top 3
All right,
pitcher in
you're
all of
right. You're
baseball.
right. Give me a non-ace pitcher.
Carlos Carrasco.
Sure, Carlos
That's about as
Carrasco.
random of a pitcher as I can think of. Cookie.
All right, let's see. Cookie Carrasco last season had a walks per nine of 3.6. So it
There you
is
go.
0.2 walks per nine higher than Jack Leiter. Now, different levels of competition for sure. Very small sample size with Jack Leiter, obviously. But the fact that you can even translate some of the stats towards a major league level, coupled with the other ridiculous stats that he's kind of chucking out there, is insane. Especially when it's something like walks, which obviously have their detriment to pitching. But if it's the only real knock against you, it's not the worst thing because it depends on how it presents. If it's coupled with a fuck ton of strikeouts, bad contact, all these other things that show that your movement is otherwise very, very effective for you, and it's not just I'm out of the zone, and then when I'm in the zone, I'm getting fucking hammered. If it's not that, it's really I hate to say it's like not a big deal, but it's you take it and that's the thing you work on because the rest of your arsenal is working exactly as intended. It's generating swings and misses, it's generating strikeouts, and it's generating poor contact. And we can get all that based on the fact that he hasn't allowed an extra base hit all season, and he's only allowed 7 hits all season. So, I mean, it's just fucking insane.
Yeah. I mean, what's that whip? I mean, 29 innings, 18. That's a fucking .62. That's really, really good. In case you were wondering, no big deal. What was
Yeah,
like
right.
Jacob DeGrom's whip last year?
I have that up actually because we're planning on talking about Jacob DeGrom in a
Right.
little bit. Last year, Jacob DeGrom's whip was 9.56.
Wow, so he's 30% better than Jacob DeGrom. Take that to the bank. That math is just linear in correlation.
We can extrapolate this out over the course of 165 innings, no problem.
Abso-freaking-lutely. Especially against MLB talent and not the SEC.
There you fucking go, baby. What do you think the single season whip record is in baseball?
0. I don't
Ooh,
think it's 0.
this is
It's
actually a
something slightly higher.
fascinating list. This is a truly fascinating list. You will know 4 out of 5 names in the top 5, and
Okay.
two of the top 5 names are active players
Wow.
in single season whip, not
Single
career,
season whip.
single season.
Okay. Ooh. I'll say Shane Bieber.
No.
Fuck. Then I don't know.
Okay, so the number one, the greatest whip season of all time is 2000 Pedro Martinez, which makes a lot of sense. 7-3, 7-3.
Mm-hmm.
That's a stupid whip. That is a stupid whip.
Whoa.
Yeah. Number two, active player, and it just happened last year. And somehow we didn't realize this, but it's the second greatest season by whip of all time.
Okay.
Would you like to guess?
Lucas
It's
Giolito.
no. And that's a phenomenal guess. It's a player I genuinely would never have thought of. Kenta Maeda.
No fucking shit. Okay.
Yeah, 7-5.
With the
flat.
Twins?
With the Twins. And this has been a talking point that Kenta Maeda is a criminally underrated pitcher because he was so overshadowed in the Dodgers rotation when he was with them. And now he's, I don't want to say the Twins are like a stepbrother team, but they're not a nationally recognized team. And they have so many holes in pitching and they are underachieved since they kind of got good that I think maybe just kind of got lost in the shuffle. But Kenta Maeda is a phenomenal pitcher. And
Yeah,
that's fucking ridiculous. 7-5, even in a shortened season. I don't care. Even in a shortened season, 7-5's because if that was the case, everybody would have done this. Wow, that's fucking wild. Number three is a name I have no idea, and it's Guy Hecker in 1882.
Sure.
Guy Hecker, who has a triple crown, a batting title, an ERA title, and 37.3 WAR. Let's put him in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, hold on. Guy Hecker, ERA plus by season. 191, 89, 171, 149, 126, 105, and then 89, 68, 65. Really fell off there at the end, finishing his career with the Pittsburgh Alleghenies after spending the rest of it with the Louisville Cardinals. So that's his ERA plus. His OPS plus by season, 124, 110, 146, 96, 161, 126, 87, 104, and 84. He was a true two-way player in 1886 or in the 1880s.
That's really, really impressive.
It actually kind of is because even though it's a era where baseball made no sense, you still don't see that necessarily, which is interesting. Anyway, number four is another old pitcher, Walter Johnson, his 1913 season, 7.803. And then number five, another active player who also just did this last season, Cy Young winner. Any guesses?
No.
Trevor Bauer.
Fuck.
Yeah.
That
7.9, 4.5. All five pitchers below an 8 whip. The only five pitchers below an 8 whip in a single season.
So what we're saying is Jack Leiter's officially going to be the best pitcher of all time.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting additionally because there's basically no way these two dudes end up on the same team because they're the same age, which means that they're very likely to accept being drafted around the same time. For anyone unaware, where the MLB draft works is you don't have to accept. You can just stay in school, and then be drafted again later. Even if you weren't in school and you just weren't happy with where you got drafted, you can just not accept and then just get drafted later. I believe Aaron Judge got drafted the first time in the 26th round or some shit, and then was I'm not gonna take that signing bonus and terrible amount of money, and gambled on himself for another year, and then got drafted in the first round.
Jack Leiter got drafted in 2019 by the New York Yankees in the 20th round. Him not accepting, kind of a good decision looking back.
Yeah, and then Kumar Rocker was also drafted in the 2018 draft by the Colorado Rockies in the 38th round. So obviously,
again, good decision.
Yeah, that
hindsight's
decision
2020, but
really good. As the although you got to admit, Kumar Rocker being on the Rockies would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Draft order. Because I know the Pirates have number one, obviously, because they're gonna waste it. Um, or at least trade him away in 4 years when they have to pay him. Cool. My internet's just deciding not to load any pages, so we can continue and I can come back to this.
But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see kind of how that aspect of it shakes out for them, because this, I mean, these two dudes are ridiculous. And we haven't even finished really talking about Jack Leiter. So the idea of him throwing this complete game, this no hitter the other day, it's one of those things that doesn't matter. Oh boy, howdy, does it not really matter? But it usually, I should say, in this instance, it kind of does, because usually a lot of no hitters come with luck. All no hitters come with luck. And you'll see dudes who shouldn't throw no hitters. Homer Bailey has, I think, 2 or 3 no hitters. Homer Bailey is, right. I'm not even sure,
an
still in
incredibly
baseball.
Disproportionate. Let's find out.
Yeah. Like, comparative to talent, a very disproportionate number of no hitters compared to people who are very much so better than him. But at the same time, like, with the level of dominance Jack Leiter has shown throughout his 4 previous starts, heading into the one where he threw his complete game no hitter, it just leaves you mouth agape, wondering what else the man can possibly accomplish in a season, because it's built on the back, so much on the back of just raw talent, and the idea that, like, throwing 9 innings is fucking hard. Not just avoiding the hits for 9 innings, but also throwing 9 innings worth of pitches. I mean, that's a challenge. And I'm not trying to, like, say, like, that's what shows him as being major league ready, or any of this necessarily shows him as being major league ready in an individual sense. But stepping back and looking at it all, I mean, obviously the dude's going to spend maybe some time in the minors, but, like, we saw, fuck, man, this might be the first guy since, I think, Chris. No, we just had a guy recently who did it too. But another one of the recent examples of dudes who get drafted in the summer and then, like, make their debut in spring, or in fall. Chris Sale did it with the White Sox, where he got drafted in June and then started pitching with the White Sox in, like, September. And then somebody else did this recently. I forget
Casey
who.
Mize was fairly quick. I don't know if it was the same year though.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not sure, but both these guys are making cases for why they could do it, and that's awesome. That's just so cool to see.
So just to come back before we move on, the Rangers have the number 2 overall pick, Detroit Tigers with number 3, Red Sox 4, and the Orioles have number 5.
Look at that, Orioles. You're getting slightly better.
Also, Homer Bailey, still a free agent.
What? No way. Someone didn't want that?
Casey Mize was the 2018 first overall pick. He didn't debut until last year. Dansby Swanson, maybe? I'm trying to think of when all these guys debuted. Yeah, I can't tell off the top of my head.
All right. Let's see. Hold on 1 second.
2016 was when Dansby Swanson made his debut.
How many pitches do you think Jack Leiter threw in his complete game no hitter?
9 innings or 7?
9 innings.
96.
124.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
1 walk,
That's
16 strikeouts. Which means he had 27 at-bats and 27 outs. He faced, though, 28 batters. Oh, just fucking ridiculous. 8 foul outs, 8 fly outs, 3 ground outs. Fucking ridiculous. The entire South Carolina team threw 161 pitches. It took Brandon Jordan the starting pitcher of South Carolina, 98 pitches to get through 5 innings. Took Jack Leiter 124 to get through all 9 of them. It's fucking nuts, man.
Jesus. Vanderbilt, really fucking good at producing number 1 overall picks. I mean, one of Kumar Rocker or Jack Leiter is going to be the pick this year. They had Dansby Swanson in 2015. They had David Price back in 2000. What was that? 2007. That's really fucking good to have essentially 4 number 1 overall picks, or guys who could be, one of Jack Leiter or Kumar Rockers going number 1 this year. The other one would be number 1 in just about any other year, except for, real special drafts. So Vanderbilt, good on you, man. Really producing some fucking top end major league talent. And Dansby Swanson.
Yeah, I saw that they are I think the actual number is 5. I saw a tweet, which means it's true.
Of course.
That Vanderbilt University is now like top 3 in the schools that have produced number 1 overall picks by count. I think it's them, ASU, who had 6, and then there was one other team. I want to say maybe it was Mississippi that also had 5. But the thing about Vanderbilt, who?
Spencer Torkelson went to Arizona State.
Okay, gotcha. Because but what?
I was just scrolling through the list of top overall picks. In 1981, Oral Roberts University had the first overall pick. Mike Moore, right-handed pitcher to the Mariners.
Yes, Moore, Oral Robertson.
Yeah.
But yeah, the wild part about that was like ASU's first overall pick, I think, came in like 1956, and Vanderbilt's first overall pick came in 2007. So it's like they are producing talent at a ridiculous rate. I mean, it's just fucking nuts. So let's talk about Kumar Rocker, who I guess when would he have had his most recent start?
Probably the day before, day after.
Yeah,
Leiters.
day before. I have it here. Anyway, so his season stats thus far. He has also appeared in 5 games. He has started all 5. He has pitched 31 innings. So despite Jack Leiter's complete game last night, Kumar Rocker still ahead of him by 2 innings pitched. Got to catch up to that shit, Jack. He has an ERA of 0.58, having allowed 3 runs so far this season, only 2 of them earned. He has allowed 11 hits and 10 walks, as opposed to his teammate Jack. He has allowed 6 doubles, but also no triples, also no home runs. And his batting average against is 109. He has had 1 wild pitch, 1 hit batter, 2 balks, no sacrifice flies, and 1 sacrifice hit against. Just disgusting.
Dominant numbers.
His most recent outing, he pitched 8 innings. Oh my God. 116 pitches. He allowed 3 hits, 2 runs, both earned, 2 walks, 14 strikeouts, 4 flyouts, and 5 groundouts. Oh my God. Like, these guys are just disgusting. This is ridiculous.
The ERA numbers themselves are crazy to begin with. Just, I mean, 0.3, 0.58. Like, it's stupid numbers. The strikeouts as well are unbelievable.
That's the thing that really sticks out, because like you can look at the ERA. Oh, I know I didn't read the strikeout numbers for either of them. I skipped right by him in the box score. Jack Leiter 49 strikeouts so far this season, and Kumar Rocker 48 strikeouts so far this season. So Jack Leiter has 20 more strikeouts than he does innings pitched, and Kumar Rocker has 17 more strikeouts than he does innings pitched. I'll get you those strikeout per 9 numbers in a second as I do the schmath on it. Hold on one second. So that's a 15.2 strikeouts per 9 for Jack Leiter. Gross. And that is 13.9 strikeouts per 9 for Kumar Rocker. Gross. That is so good. That is so ridiculously good. And that's the thing, like Corwin was saying, like, you can almost look at the ERA number and be like, I mean, this is college. Like, what does any of it matter? It's really hard to do that with strikeouts because there's a level of deception and movement and talent in it that just isn't chance, or isn't the poor talent of your opponent that maybe ERA can sometimes absorb because it's in a lot of ways a team stat, and not a perfect indicator of what you've been doing, which is why ERA is not really relied upon as a predictive stat. When you look at projections, it's relied upon as a past performance stat in a very surface level conversational way and not so much an analytical way. Again, strikeouts, though, that means that you are pitching in the zone and not getting hit, or you're pitching out of the zone and getting swings and misses. And both of those things are hard to do. Even against, weaker talent in college, the idea that a hitter gets to a D1 school means that they have an ability to put bat to ball, whatever that ability looks like. And the idea that you are fooling these dudes at such ridiculous rates is I mean, it's just beyond comprehension, especially for dudes just this young and so talented. It's so cool to see.
I moved my laptop and just fucking destroyed my screen.
I'm sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah, no, that's fucked. Okay. All right, now we're fun. Okay.
Oh, I love to hear it.
Oh God. I take such good care of my things, but my laptops have just been they've been going through some shit these past couple of years.
I understand, buddy. It's okay.
Yikes.
Yeah. Fuck. Sorry. I was looking at the stats of the Vanderbilt pitching. It's disgusting. Oh my God.
Okay. We talked about both. If you have anything you want to add to Kumar Rocker's discussion, please feel free. But I have a transition if you are ready.
Well, the only other thing I'd like to say about Kumar Rocker is it's also great. We mentioned him very briefly when we talked with Randy Wilkins a few episodes ago, because it's nice to see more kids of color getting, especially black kids, getting national attention and, just being good at baseball and getting to be a face of a next generation of players. And that's the other really cool thing about seeing these two dudes do it, is that the conversation is very much so around their talent, because they're great guys. And then you also get to have something that looks more like what baseball should look like going forward. Because there's just not a lot of black pitchers anymore like there used to be, where it was such a position that you would see so many great black ball players be in, and the idea that you get to see Kumar Rocker be there would just be cool. It would just be cool. I just want him to be so successful. But
Absolutely.
anyway, give me your hit me with that transition.
You are the Pittsburgh Pirates GM.
Oh God.
You have the first overall pick. You have to decide between Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker. Who are you going?
That's a great question. Hold on 1 second. Let me look at their other years in college. I'm not going to take in any other other information, just those other stats. Okay. Fuck, it's a great question. And it's a great question because there's literally no wrong answer. I would probably take Kumar Rocker.
Okay.
For no real reason other than he has one additional season pitching at Vanderbilt. I only see 2 seasons for Jack Leiter, including this one, and Rocker has 3. So I could make an argument in my head that the additional season of just playing at whatever level you want to consider college ball has some value that might be conceived of as an edge. Because even last year's stats, these two dudes are so similar. You know, this season, they're both sub 1 ERAs. Last season in 2020, Jack Leiter ERA 1.72, Rocker ERA 1.8. I mean, and you go across the board, and obviously I just said ERA is not like the world's greatest stat for comparison, but you go across the board and all their stats are lined up relatively close. So that's the advantage I have.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. How about you?
I think I'd go Jack Leiter. I think based off of what I've seen other analysts say and other guys come out and say, I think well, not I think, they think that his stuff, his pitch combinations is just a little deeper than what Kumar, or at least a little bit better fit for, the transition into the majors than Kumar Rocker. Um, I will say everything I've seen of Kumar Rocker off the field, off the mound, interaction with fans, interactions with those around him makes him seem like an absolute, perfect guy to be the face of a franchise, the perfect guy you would want representing your team. And, I don't know much about Jack Leiter in that respect. So that would definitely be a consideration. Now, being the Pirates, knowing I'm going to trade him, it doesn't fucking matter what his value is, off the field, because we're not going to utilize that, down the road for the rest of his career like they should. But also, to be contrarian, I'll go Jack Leiter.
And again, there's no wrong answer here.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, and that's just so God. I mean, we're living in a world where Vanderbilt's baseball team could very realistically have the number 1 and number 2 overall pick in the draft,
which is fucking stupid.
It's fucking ridiculous. That's so for any sport, that's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not a thing that happens. And obviously it hasn't happened yet, but like it sure does look like it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. It would be surprising if it didn't. I mean, I know there's other prospects out there that may fit, the Rangers team better, but at the end of the day, they'd be stupid not to take one of these two guys that are looking like the next Garrett Cole, Trevor Bauer combination.
Especially when, as we've talked about so much on the show, like pitching's the good front end rotation pitching is the hardest thing to come by in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
It is the most difficult. That's why pitchers get the highest contracts with the best term. I mean, and why they get traded for the most value prospects. Front end pitching, a fucking number 2 pitcher is the hardest thing to come by in the sport of baseball.
Absolutely.
And so if you're the Rangers and you're so bad that a front end starter isn't going to help you out immediately, you don't care, because even if you're shit in 4 years when arbitration starts getting expensive and you don't want to hang on to him, you trade that guy for a fortune and make your team better. You take that guy. You take the pitcher every time. What's up?
I'm looking. So I wanted to see how long it's been since, not even how long, but the Garrett Cole, Trevor Bauer year when they were both drafted, how close they were to being number 1 and number 2 taken.
Right.
Garrett Cole obviously taken number 1 overall to the Pittsburgh Pirates. We saw how that ended up. Danny Holtzman went number 2 to the Mariners.
Classic Danny Holtzman.
Yeah, of course. All-star, .2 career WAR, no big deal. Trevor Bauer went 3 to the Diamondbacks.
Yes.
Followed up by Dylan Bundy going number 4. Anthony Rendon went 6.
Who went 5?
Bubba Starling. Negative 1.5 career
Not
WAR.
enough Bubbas. We need more Bubbas in baseball.
Bubbas. Francisco Lindor went 8 to the Indians. Javier Baez went 9. George Springer at 11. Brandon Nimmo at 13. Jose Fernandez at 14. Sonny Gray at 18. Colton Wong at 22.
Wow, that's a hell of a
that
first
was a
round.
star-studded first round. Yeah,
That's a
absolutely.
hell of a first round. God
I'm actually
damn.
gonna sort by career WAR to see if there's anybody else that was missed. Trevor Story went 45 overall to the Rockies. Jackie Bradley Jr. went 40th to the Red Sox. Colton Wong, Blake Snell, 52 to the Rays. Michael Fulmer, 44 to the Mets. This is a really, really good draft. Archie Bradley, Joe Panic, Tyler Anderson, Joe Musgrove, Joe Ross, Matt Barnes. Great, great draft.
Right on.
And
That
then
is
a
a
bunch
hell
of
of a
people
draft.
nobody cares about.
All right. So that's just a quick thing on Vanderbilt's baseball team. I might have to start finding ways to watch those games. I'm like mad that I didn't start that search last week and watch this complete game no hitter. But oh well, I'll save my anger for later. But yeah, because that's just ridiculous. I want to see it. I'm excited for the future of both these two dudes. Um, is there anybody on the hitting side worth shouting out? Who's got something fun?
Not that I know of.
Uh, shout outs to Tate Colwick and his team leading 5 home runs.
Please tell me he went to a private school.
Tate Colwick. Let's find out. Well, he's white. That's not a surprise.
No, I don't think anyone here would have argued.
Hometown of Memphis. His high school is Arlington. I don't know.
Let's see. Let's go.
Product
to
of Arlington
Prospects
High School
Live.
in Tennessee.
Kumar Rocker, Jordan Lawler as well.
Yeah,
he
it's a
doesn't
public
give any
school.
breakdown.
Whatever, doesn't matter. And shout outs to Isaiah Thomas and his team leading 683 slugging percent out of the starters.
Yeah.
Neat. Yeah. All right.
James
Cool.
Wood, the actor, is coming out of retirement to start a baseball career. So let's hear for James Wood. James Wood, excuse me.
James Wood can eat butt. All right. So let's move this into a conversation about Jacob DeGrom, because another thing that had been poking around baseball Twitter is the conversation of if Jacob DeGrom retired today, is he a Hall of Famer? / what would it take? How many more years of this type of production would it take for Jacob DeGrom to be a Hall of Famer? As it stands today, Jacob DeGrom, 38.1 career WAR, 70 wins and 51 losses, which has been a constant discussion amongst Jacob DeGrom's years of baseball service, because the Mets, as much as they always suck, seem to suck so much harder when he plays, for no good reason. He has pitched in 183 games. He's been the starter in all of them. He has pitched 1,169.2 innings. He has 1,359 strikeouts, a career whip of 1.047, two-time All-Star, Rookie of the Year, ERA title, two-time Cy Young, three-time All-Star, Rookie of the Year, ERA title. Came in 3rd place in Cy Young voting this past season, 8th place in 2017, and also received votes to get to 7th place in 2015. Those are also All-Star years for him. The only year he got no Cy Young nor Rookie of the Year votes, it was 2016, when he still had a 3.04 ERA, which is just hilarious. That's like the only year he didn't get votes. So Corwin Heller, sir, tell me your impression about where Jacob DeGrom stands in the Hall of Fame discussion.
I think if we have the discussion of will Jacob DeGrom go to the Hall of Fame, I think everyone in the world, everyone who watches baseball, everyone who is familiar with the name Jacob DeGrom would say, yes, absolutely. He is no doubt on that pace. Looking at his career numbers now, if he were to retire today, under his own accord, I would say no, I wouldn't put him in the Hall of Fame right now. I mean, he has, oh God, the page just disappeared like an ass. Uh, I mean, he's pitched 7 seasons. He's been phenomenal in all of them, but I just don't think, career numbers of 38 WAR, 70 and 51, career 2.6 ERA, as great as his individual performance numbers are, I just don't think he has the career longevity right now to be a Hall of Fame guy. I think he just needs to get to 9 seasons. 9 seasons at this pace would put him in the Hall of Fame for me. I think right now 7 years is just too small of a sample size to say Hall of Fame. Unequivocally word. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and
Well,
that's part of why they look at they being the voting bodies at hand is the 7-year peak. So first off, as it stands today, Jacob DeGrom not eligible for the Hall of Fame. You must play 10 seasons. Barring any special exemptions, you must play 10 seasons, and he is at 7, so he wouldn't even get considered, which makes sense.
I think he gets some exemptions though if he were to retire now. I
I don't
think
see
they
why.
I could see them looking at that and saying, okay, we'll at least put this on the table for discussion. I don't
I mean,
think
I'm
if
sure
he
they
retired
talk
now,
about it, but
I don't think there's any way that they would just cast that off and say, no, didn't get 10 seasons. We're not gonna table it.
I I I think they would, and it's because as goofy as it sounds because we talked about how Hall of Fame is weird because you kind of need some of the counting stats. It's part of the accumulation and longevity of being good is part of what gets you into the Hall of Fame. And while that really doesn't matter for individual seasons or team construction or really like anything else, it's kind of the point of the Hall of Fame is to celebrate people who have had these careers, and part of celebrating careers is celebrating hitting milestones. And I'm just not sure Jacob DeGrom really has any of the milestones that would really get him in the Hall of Fame, and that's part of the problem. So if we look at uh, players who are in the Hall of Fame today, pitchers specifically who are in the Hall of Fame today,
Mm-hmm.
the only like modern era pitcher that I see with under 2,000 innings pitched, actually, I'm not sure I see. Yeah, actually, sorry, scratch that. I don't see a modern era pitcher with under 2,000 innings pitched that was a starter.
Mm-hmm.
Barring Satchel Paige, who obviously got exceptions because he had played his entire career in the Negro Leagues, and so he has the fewest Major League Baseball innings pitched of anybody in the Hall of Fame at 476. But again, there's a reason for that.
And he still pitched 2,000 innings in his career.
Yeah, well more than that. He
Right.
pitched 476 innings from 1948 to 1965. Like it's ridiculous. Anyway, the people with below 2,000 innings in ascending order: Bruce Sutter, who is a closer, he got 300 saves in his career. Trevor Hoffman, who was a closer, 601 saves in his career. Babe Ruth, who was a starting pitcher for a while and then became a left fielder. So left fielder? Yeah, I think so. It might be right fielder, but I'm just going to say left fielder because I already said it and now I'm moving on. So he didn't get in on the back of his pitching. He's just also he's a world's like greatest hitter that also happens to have 1,200 innings pitched. No big deal.
No biggie.
Mariano Rivera, closer, 652 saves, 1,283 innings pitched. So it's fucking stupid. Lee Smith, who was a closer, 478 saves. Hank O'Day, who was a starter, but also pitched from 1884 to 1890. So we're going to go ahead and ignore Hank O'Day. Raleigh Fingers, who was a reliever, 341 saves. Goose Gossage, who was a reliever, 310 saves, and Dizzy Dean, who was a relief, I guess both a starter and a reliever, since he has 154 complete games and also 31 saves. He pitched from 1930 to 1947. We've talked about Dizzy Dean before, his weird ass career. And outside of that, those are the only guys with under 2,000 innings pitched that are in the Hall of Fame. And almost all of them are either relievers or pitched at a very old and odd point in baseball where their careers don't exactly count for this discussion. You have to get to Sandy Koufax to get to the most modern, like, quote unquote modern era pitcher. And he still has 2,324.1 innings pitched. And he was an exception because of how high his peak was. Because if you look at Sandy Koufax by WAR, as we've done before, 48.9, and he's ended up retiring in what a lot of people would have considered the prime of his career, retiring after his age 30 season. But by that point, I mean, if you look at his baseball reference page, it's the stupidest looking thing in the world. Those especially those last 6 years in his total last 7 years, his last 6 seasons, he led in all of baseball in FIP every single year. Every single year. I mean, he was ridiculous. It was a stupid career. And that's what's so dumb about having these types of conversations, because it's like, it leads you to saying, all right, Jacob DeGrom is having a great year or a great career, but was he Sandy Koufax? And those two dudes played 60 years apart, 70 years apart almost. Like, it's a dumb conversation to have. But that's what the Hall of Fame is. So it's I don't know. Like, if Jacob DeGrom could get to 2,000 innings, because I think we're reaching a point where Hall of Fame voters are stopping caring about wins, as well they should, because wins are stupid. But I think if he could get to 2,000 innings and maintain some semblance of what he's been doing for the past 3 or 4 seasons, I would say probably.
I think if he gets close, if he gets to 1,800 innings, Hall of Fame. If he gets to 2,000, almost guaranteed. I mean, obviously that's a difference of like a season, so it's not a huge deal overall. But I think the fact that he came into the league older, I think the fact that he's been dominant from essentially day one, ever since his rookie season, he's been a dominant pitcher, and he's been the nearly undisputed number one pitcher in all of baseball for the past 3-4 seasons. I think when the discussion is had, voters will absolutely remember that he played for the Mets. He started much older than, most prospects do. He was this dominant top overall pitcher for a significant amount of time. I think it'll be very, very favorable for him, all things considered. So I definitely think he will get there, and I don't think he needs to hit some of the typical major milestones to do so. I just, at the end of the day, he's not there yet.
Yeah, and speaking on the milestones, and especially what you said about him getting near 2,000 innings pitched, even if he doesn't cross it, we're at a point in time where we're seeing, I mean, universally, like every season, the number of innings a starting pitcher pitches go down. Even just 5 to 10 years ago, it's really common to see pitchers go 7 innings, sometimes 8. Whereas today, like, seeing a pitcher go 7 innings, it's not that it's uncommon. It's just like, oh, that's interesting.
Like, wow, that was a really good outing. Yeah. Hey.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Jordan Montgomery, who's the fifth, sixth starter for the Yankees. That's a guy you expect to just go 5. And the fact that you have any starting pitchers that you just expect to go 5 is weird if you look back as to the history of starting pitching. And at some point, we've chiseled away at the importance of wins. That's awesome, because wins are stupid. At And while innings pitched isn't stupid like wins, it's also going to change the way wins has, because starting pitchers are just asked to do less. And even if your top end guys like, Scherzer or DeGrom or Cole or whatever, aren't asked to do less, the idea of the quick hook is still a more prevalent concept, that they are inherently going to get pulled sooner than they otherwise would have if they pitched 20 years ago, which is also good,
Hmm.
but it's going to affect the stat sheet. They're going to get less strikeouts. They're going to get fewer innings
And I'm
pitched.
very concerned about how long it's going to take the committee to make that adjustment with their own biases, their own struggles with adapting to changing baseball. I'm worried some very deserving players are going to get shafted and just get fucked over, excuse me, by the committee just being unable to look at the changing path that baseball is on and be able to have an unbiased comparison for these players.
So just out of curiosity, I want to see. So far, Jacob DeGrom has pitched 1,169.2 innings in his career, which means to get up to 2,000 innings, he needs to pitch 830.1 more innings. Let's divide that by 9 to just turn that into a 9 inning or a game average. It's 92.23. His strikeouts per 9 is 10.5. So let's multiply that shit. So that's an additional 968 strikeouts on top of his total of 1,359, which would put him. Oh, I said it out loud and didn't fucking add it. Way to go, Josh. At 2,327 strikeouts, and that feels like a good point. 2,000 innings pitched and 2,300 strikeouts. That feels about right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically Koufax. It's 300 fewer innings than Koufax, but the strikeouts are within 70 of each other. That feels fair.
I think the conversation is not whether or not he will get in the Hall of Fame. The conversation about whether he would get in today is merited for sure. Um, Looking ahead and projecting, I think the conversation of will he get in is overblown. I think it's obvious that unless he completely falls apart as a player or is so injured that he cannot return to baseball, he will. I think it's okay by the time he retires. Is he in the conversation of being the best pitcher in all of baseball? Is he in that Greg Maddux, Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez, just that level, that tier of pitcher where you can have that discussion? Obviously, we've had bits and pieces of it on the pod a lot in the past, and it's always been tough because arguing between eras is fucking hard. But honestly, I think he's going to get there. I think he's just been so good for so long and so consistent with it that he keeps it up for the next 5-6 years. Sure, absolutely. Have that
I
conversation.
would also so love to see him have a Randy Johnson style career, because Randy Johnson debuted when he was 24, which is only 2 years younger than Jacob DeGrom debuted. And he only pitched 4 games. His first real season was when he was 25, the 1989 season. Because Jacob DeGrom in his first year pitched a full season. He pitched 22 games, which, isn't like a full season, but it's a full season.
First starter.
So, yeah. So 25 versus 26, that's not very different. The difference is Randy Johnson pitched until he was 45 years old.
Yeah.
Which and he was considered a late bloomer too at the time. Like he was good at the start in Seattle, then he got really good at the end in Seattle, then he was a ridiculous pitcher in Arizona, and then he kind of calmed down after that with the Yankees and Arizona. I actually have to pay the job. San Francisco, that's right. Totally forgot he retired with San Francisco.
Wow.
But to see DeGrom even the idea that there's a framework of a guy who also came in late and even didn't get off to the same hot start that DeGrom got off to is reassuring, because DeGrom's one of those guys I think everyone kind of wants to see in the Hall of Fame. He's a good dude.
Absolutely.
He's a great pitcher on a shit team. He's a nice guy. I want
Do
nice
you
guys in the Hall of Fame.
do you know anyone who does not like Jacob DeGrom? Like I don't. There's people that don't like certain pitchers. I like the Pirates don't like Garrett Cole. Whatever. It's a bad example, but like DeGrom is just such a universally loved pitcher by everyone. Even if you're not a Mets fan, it's like, oh, Jacob DeGrom's the fucking man. He's fantastic. Everyone roots for him. Everyone supports him. Nobody has any ill will against him. So absolutely, I'd love to see him reach that point in his career.
Yeah, there's a
Everyone's
lot of
gonna root for
spiteful
him.
Yankees fans I know who hate him because they're spiteful. But that's true of all
But
sports.
Yankees fans don't count as people.
Barely. Yeah, you can't rub our two vertebrae together. Spineless. Yeah. Anyway, it'll be interesting. Yeah, it's not a conversation yet, really, because he just hasn't been doing it long enough. And that's, again, the tough part about it is like it seems like it would be a worthwhile conversation at the top, and we just had a full conversation about it. But people on Twitter, he's so good. He's so fucking good. And that's not what the Hall of Fame is like about, really, because it
Right.
combines being really good with longevity to a pretty severe extent. 10 seasons is what qualifies you typically. And it's what makes it such a, because I mean, if this is the NFL, 7 years of being phenomenal, yeah, you're probably making the Hall of Fame. Congrats.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even really that
Got,
hard to think about.
but like quarterbacks, I was supposed to say quarterbacks don't play till they're 45, and here we fucking are with Tom Brady, where it's like it's
Fucking
almost assured
asshole.
he's gonna play till 45. Yeah.
Eh.
But yeah, I mean, the careers typically are so significantly shorter, and the amount of wear and tear you have at that age is so significantly more that you can't really compare the two to that full extent.
Right. And I think that's what's hard about it is because other sports don't have necessarily the same degree of longevity that we expect in baseball. But them's the breaks. So fucking well. Uh, two more things that are a little bit quicker. So I was curious about this increasing the size of the bags on that they're trying out in, I forget if it was AA or AAA, but one of the two. We talked about all these various rule changes and the concept behind the increasing of the size of the bag from 15 inches square to 18 inches square is that it artificially reduces the length of the base paths to hopefully increase steals or whatever. So, thought it might be worth looking at very briefly what those actual differences kind of amount to and how significant or insignificant it might be. Because it's not a lot, 3 inches, but let's especially in terms of running, because that's the part that really gets me is it's all right. So let's break it down like this. So the distance between the base paths is from the foul lines towards the center of second base. That's where your distances are. So it's not heart of the plate to heart of the plate. Well, I guess that is like the heart of second, but it's foul lines to heart of second. So that means that the 90 feet going from the first base bag to the second base bag captures the 15 square inches of the first base bag. So we can take away 15 inches right from there. So hold on, actually 1 second. 90 feet times how many inches are in the feet? Okay, there we go. So we go from, just so that we're all on the same page with units here. So that 90 feet is 1,080 inches. So let's take away 15 from that, and we're at 1,065 inches. Now, you also don't need to get to the heart of second base. It's a little bit tough because second base is squared off, whereas the path to get to it is an angle. So it depends on where you touch the bag. But let's just go ahead and say we can eliminate half of that 15 inches to get us down to the loosely speaking edge of the bag, because I really don't feel like doing geometry. Um, that is not what this podcast is about. I really sucked at pre-calc. So I was great at calc. I just was not good at pre-calc. So let's take our 165 and let's subtract half of 15. And that brings us to 1,057.5 total inches of room that you actually have to run. If we factor in, I looked up the average leadoff from first, and most players are somewhere between 6 feet and 10 feet. So if we just take a easy average of that, call it 8 feet. So hold on, maybe again turn that into inches. That's 8 times 12. We're looking at a total distance that needs to be run of 961.5 inches. And if we divide that by 12, that's 80.125 feet. That's the total distance that a player actually has to run. So if we take that and we change out just the one trait, that is the size of the bag. So instead of subtracting 15 inches from our original total distance of 1,080 inches, and instead make that 18 inches. And then also we're going to increase the size of the bag at second, which decreases the total amount of distance that needs to be run. They are going from 7.5 inches of space from dead true center of second base to 9 inches of distance from dead true center of second base. That decreases the total number of inches needing to be run by, any guess? Corwin?
No.
4 inches.
No. Math.
4 inches. That means that instead of running, that's again, the constant 8 feet lead off from first, yada, yada, yada. So that means that the total distance you'd have to run with the bases at 15 is 80.125 feet. And with the bases at 18 inches, 79.75 feet.
You could do a lot with 4 inches.
Well, what I'm curious about, so because if we look at fastest sprint speeds in
Right.
MLB, all right, and let's even bring it down. Let's really round it down. Let's call the original, OG base 80 feet, and we'll call base size prime 75 feet, which is like way less of distance than it actually is. But let's just call it that. The difference between Roman Quinn, who is apparently the fastest player in baseball. I don't know who he is. For anyone who does, or anyone else who doesn't, he is the lefty batting center fielder from Philadelphia. Still don't know.
Sure.
Right? Like, I have no fucking clue who this guy is. He is 27. I have no idea who he is. His 80 feet sprint speed or total length of sprint time, there we go, is 3.35 seconds. His 75-foot sprint time is 3.19 seconds, which means that even if there was a 5-foot difference between these adjusted bag sizes, he'd still only be saving. This is the fastest player in baseball. These numbers will obviously change a lot. Like if we look, actually the distance between these numbers is relatively similar. Let's pick someone. Let's go with Fernando Tatis Jr. He's someone I think we know a little bit more. He feels like a more familiar guy.
I'm familiar with him.
80-foot sprint time, 3.57 seconds. 75-foot sprint time, 3.41 seconds. It's still 0.16 seconds. It's just not a lot of time. Let's go with someone really slow. Who's slow? That we know
Nelson
and
Cruz.
love. Oh God, I don't even want to think about Nelson Cruz running. Oh my God, that hurts my heart. Luke Voigt's slow. He has the 18th slowest sprint speed at his 90-foot sprint speed is 4.39. which is still a like relatively fast person, but that's slow for baseball, I guess. His 80-foot sprint speed is 3.97 seconds, and his 75-foot sprint speed is 3.77 seconds. So again, it only is saving 0.2 seconds. It's not a huge difference. And
No.
I was a little bit like, okay, I kind of get it when I first heard it, because I think, you hear shrinking of the base pass, you go, oh, okay, that's interesting. Might encourage it more. It's just not, it's just so insignificant. And it led me to wondering, and I no facts to back this up, just kind of curious. Do you think it might affect pickoffs more than it would stolen bases? Now, obviously, there's talk about limiting the number of pickoffs, as that's also been a rule that's been introduced. But it also, not only does it move the base closer to, first base closer to second base artificially, it also artificially decreases the distance between first base and the pitcher's mound, which means that, Jose Abreu standing on first base is going to be 3 or more inches closer to Lucas Giolito than he would have been otherwise as well. And if players feel as though base paths are shorter, it may incent them to take longer leadoffs. And a longer leadoff with a shorter distance that the pickoff attempt actually needs to go could actually increase pickoffs.
I honestly just don't think it's a significant enough difference. I mean, we're talking
Very
game of
very
inches
little
here.
room. Yeah.
I really don't know how much that would make an honest to God impact. Um, sure, if you extrapolate it, you know, let's say 3 attempts a game over the course of 162 games for every team, sure, you could look at those raw numbers increase. As far as an actual honest to God impact in the game and something that, us analytics fans are going to focus on and make adjustments on, I don't think it matters. I really don't.
And yeah, because I have other things that I was wondering, but the problem with all of them is that this is such a small distance we're talking about. Because the other point I was going to ask your opinion on is that this also, the longer you run for up to a certain point, because eventually you get tired, you build up speed and eventually hit a top speed. This is very common to look at in football because, if you're a running back, you're obviously not going to hit your top speed within 5 fucking steps. You have to like work up to running 20 miles per hour, you know? Um, and if you decrease the distance between base paths, you might also end up with lower sprint speeds on the longer end because people just have to run less, which means they're not going to build up speed, and they have to start sliding sooner, which means that they're going to pick an earlier point in their sprint to kind of put the brakes on. And I was wondering if that was going to affect how we view sprint speed. But again, the problem with that is that it's just not a lot of additional room. It's just not a huge difference between the two things. And this is like, I forget what Rule Corn and I were talking about a couple days or weeks ago, but I don't mind rule changes if they seem to have a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And the more time I spend looking at kind of how these numbers would break out, the more I'm not convinced this is going to do anything interesting.
Yeah. Again, it's noticeable on a game to game basis. No. Season to season basis, sure. Some people are going to blow it up proportions. Yeah, absolutely. But to the layman watching the games, no, nothing will change. Honestly, if they didn't advertise this, guarantee you no one would even notice a difference, except for the guys on the field.
I mean, this is really going to put to the test the idea of marginal differences and how they relate to actual increases or decreases in certain levels of production, because we're sitting here talking about a difference of a little over 4 inches, and how much impact that 4.5, 5 inches might end up ultimately making in terms of pickoffs and stolen bases, and who knows, maybe even just being able to go first to second on certain types of or avoiding fielders' choices and double plays. But if it ends up making a difference, it could be some type of informant as to how close a lot of this shit really is to being drastically different. I'm just very skeptical of it because I don't buy it. But I don't know. I don't know.
4 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches, like the actual size doesn't matter. It's, how the players use it, how you use it, and just, how much satisfaction we can get from the game.
Corwin Heller never missing an opportunity to take the easy joke.
I don't know if you were watching me while you were going through
I
that, but I just
was.
was like,
I saw the
oh,
gears turning in
I
there.
know exactly what I'm gonna say. Yep.
I knew it was coming when you were done. Uh,
Yeah.
all right. So then the
I always
only
come when I'm done.
I hate it. I hate it so much. The only other thing that we had on our docket to talk about today, which is a nice short topic that we can close out on, is Cubs prospect got caught with 20 some odd pounds of meth in his bag. So apparently, the way the story went is this Cubs prospect was approached by a friend of his who got asked him to basically just mule the this very large amount of meth for $500. And this broke ass Cubs prospect was like, yeah. He then got stopped on a traffic stop. He got his shit searched, and they found 20 some odd pounds of meth. And now this is a wild story for many reasons. Because for one, it's just so much goddamn meth. But it's also wild because it's not a lot of money. It's certainly not enough to warrant that. And that speaks a lot to the terrible, terrible wage and living conditions of minor league ball players, which is something that we've talked about so often. And it's like, obviously, not all minor league ball players are turning to literally being drug mules. This is quite out of the ordinary. But at the same time, this is what people bring up when they talk about poverty in general as it relates to the underground illicit drug economy. I don't know. I was just wondering what your impression of the story was.
I only ever heard the headline. I never read into the story about why. The thing that strikes me is, how many times have you gotten pulled over in your life? I've been pulled over half a dozen.
Under 15, I'm not confident if it's over 10 though. I just want to
Yeah.
play it safe.
How many of those times led to your car getting searched?
0 times.
Yeah, I'm in that boat too. How nervous do you have to be? Like, I'm not even thinking about, if they were tipped off or if they knew, to expect something, this, that, or if he just had it fucking sitting out on the passenger seat. Who knows? I don't know the details,
Oh,
but
apparently there was a K9 unit in the car that pulled him over. So really bad luck.
I've never gotten pulled over by a K9 unit. That is especially bad. Yeah. Fuck, dude. Come on. Like, I get that he's probably not driving a car that would be in tip-top perfect shape, like a relatively new car with all the trims and features that would prevent you from getting pulled over, like working brake lights, turn signals, things like that. But drive
So
the speed limit, drive in the right lane.
so he
Don't be a
got pulled
fucking
over. He
asshole.
got pulled over for speeding. How fast do you think he was going?
It's got to be like 30 over. It's going to be something stupid, ridiculous.
Got caught going 70 in a 65.
What the fuck? Did he
Oh,
sell his soul for this
and
$500?
sorry, I missed a sentence. Stopped for speeding and drifting into another lane.
That makes sense then.
Okay, that makes way more sense.
That is so much more reasonable than 70 and a 65.
Yep, 21 pounds of meth and 1.2 pounds of oxy. Yeesh. Yeah. He
So that's
told
like,
police that he had been offered $500 to deliver the bag to Denver, which is where this prospect was heading, because he was going to go work at I guess a youth baseball camp or something like that. So $500 to bring the bag to Denver by someone in Sinaloa, Mexico, home of a notorious drug cartel. Yeah, the 25-year-old right-handed pitcher is not considered a top prospect and hasn't not been above Class A advanced ball. Jeez.
so he's not making a lot of money. He's not looking like he'd make a lot of money. Didn't get much of a signing bonus. Guy's just desperate to make ends meet.
Yeah. God, just a heartbreaking story, man. And again,
really is.
People are going to look at it and it's drugs, and people oftentimes assign morality to the concept of drugs, and that's a separate discussion. But I think the real takeaway here is a guy took $500, which is not a lot of money, to do something insanely risky. And that's the nature of poverty. And baseball might think it's like you got to pay your dues and eat your peanut butter sandwiches to get through the minors like everybody else did since 1905. And it's like, no, you shouldn't, because here's a guy who wasn't getting by on that and started pushing drugs because he's broke, because y'all don't pay.
It goes back to the whole premise of, I promise not to get too political, of, do we punish the act or do we work to fix the cause? We can relate this back to process versus outcome. What is the process that leads to someone having to take $500 to mule heavy felony quantities of drugs across state lines and risk going to prison for the rest of his life for $500 versus maybe he's just a fucking dumbass asshole criminal, whatever. Look at what is causing these crimes and work to stop them, rather than increasing punishment for those who are forced to do it. It's like cutting the hands off someone who steals bread to feed his family. Not quite the same, but
I know what you mean, though.
Yes.
And again, baseball is not going to see it as their problem, which is part of the problem, because it is their problem to some extent. It might not be the full extent. I'm sure there's backstory here that we don't know, because of course there is. That's how life works. Mm-hmm. But it is also, to a certain extent, baseball's fucking issue.
Absolutely.
Pay your fucking players. It's not that hard. Give them money. Joe Biden gave me $1,400 last week.
I'm waiting on my check, but it happens.
Yeah.
You know what? We're going to have this conversation a lot more. We've already had it quite a lot, but the fact that MLB just refuses to pay its employees a livable wage in any conceivable view is criminal.
Yep. And on that bright and cheery note, time to get out of here.
Time to get out of here.
This is good. If you want to follow the show on Twitter, you can do so at JuicingPod. We never tweet from there. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so at Joshua D. Tracing. If you want to follow Corwin on Heller, you can do so. Corwin on Twitter, you can do so at Corwin Heller. If you want to email the show, you can do so at juicingthenumbers@gmail.com. And until Thursday, y'all have a good one.
Bye.